Kia ora, and happy International Women's Day. My name is Pausé, and I'm here to chat a little bit about feminist activism and the media. I've been a feminist for as long as I can remember, and I've probably been an activist for just as long. All I know is that I've always been committed to issues of social justice, and I really like to have a good cause to fight for. I am both an academic and an activist, and these two parts of my life overlap quite a bit. I don't actually think this is a problem. My scholarship influences and strengthens my activism, and my activism influences and strengthens my scholarship. I think this is quite common for a lot of us in areas such as fat studies, queer studies, women's studies, etc. I'm a human development lecturer and fat studies scholar at Massey University in Palmerston North, New Zealand. Most of my research focuses on the health and well-being of marginalized populations, specifically that of fat individuals. Being a fat individual myself, I found it useful to use my own experiences through methodologies like autoethnography in order to explore areas in my scholarship. Last year, I hosted the first New Zealand Fat Studies Conference. It was a big hit with academics from 3 continents presenting their work, and it also got quite a lot of media coverage. On top of being a fat studies academic, I'm also a fat activist. This means that I promote the idea that fat people deserve the same rights and dignity as non-fat people. I've been involved in several international campaigns, including Brian Stewart's Agent of Obesity campaign and Marilyn Wadd's Standards campaign. Putting a public face on both your work as an academic and possibly your work as an activist can heighten awareness around the issues and, of course, build your public persona. My public face is often presented as my brand, Friend of Marilyn. Friend of Marilyn is something I developed a few years ago when I decided to begin blogging. I needed to select a name, and I thought long and hard about what would best represent myself, the work that I was doing, and the vision that I had for what I wanted to do in the future. Marilyn Wan is a fat activist in the Bay Area in the United States, who was the first to introduce me to ideas of fat activism and body acceptance. So I knew I wanted somehow to tie her in to what I developed. I chose the phrase Friend of Marilyn as a play on the phrase Friend of Dorothy. You might be familiar with some other fat activists who are often in the media. There's Kath Reed, who's the fat heffalump from Australia. Or perhaps you've seen the work of Reagan Chastain from Dances with Fat in the United States. Kath and Reagan both are often in the press, sometimes as the subject of a story, but often as a commenter specific on a story that has to do with fatness. They're well known, and the media now often contact them out of default. So how do you get on the list? How do you get on the media's radar? There's a couple of different ways to do it. If you're an academic, one good way is to let your university know that you're interested in being talked to by the media. Most universities have an office that maintains an expert list. So when the media contacts them and says, "We'd like an expert to comment on this story," they can pull out the list and see who's appropriate. So if you are an academic, let your university know that you're interested. Universities often also have media training that academics can do in order to be able to do the media work well. Another way to get on the media's radar is to simply let them know yourself. In today's age of 24/7 media content, oftentimes they're looking for stories as well. So get in contact with them. Tell them about the work that you're doing. Offer yourself up, both as the piece for a story, but also someone who's interested in making commentary on a story. Once you're on the media's list and radar, you probably will often find that they contact you frequently, maybe even more than you'd like to. I do quite a lot of media here in New Zealand. I do print media, I do television media, and I do radio media. I'm probably one of the most recognizable fat people in New Zealand. The media that I do is quite often a combination about my activism and my scholarship. And again, I think that they both complement each other and strengthen each other. One of the key things about having a public persona and wanting to be engaged with the media is making sure you have a brand message. Friend of Maryland began as a blog, but it is now also a Tumblr, a YouTube channel, a Twitter account, and a Facebook page. And it's always brand consistent. So Friend of Maryland is always about fat. Go to my blog, check out my YouTube channel, look what I tweet, and it always comes down to fatness. While there are other things that I'm interested in and passionate about, I appreciate that by keeping Friend of Maryland a consistent message, it helps to not confuse people as to what that particular work is doing. Anytime that you're engaged in the media and you put yourself out as a public face, you're going to get reactions and you're going to get feedback. A lot of it's going to be positive, but of course some of it is going to be negative. Whether it's hate email, actual hate written mail, people talking about you in negative ways in the press. Here's a political cartoon that was published in the Christchurch Press last year. Now, if that looks familiar, it may be because I completed this television interview 2 days before this political cartoon was published. Now, I'm not saying that's supposed to be me, but she does have a nice green top on, and her hair is a lovely shade of red. If you're interested in getting involved in the media for your activism work or your academic work or both, then you should go for it. Make sure you've got a consistent message, and of course, having talking points is always a plus when you're dealing with the media. If you're interested in knowing more or just having a chat about any of these things, get in contact with me. You can shoot me an email, send me a message on Facebook, or of course, send me a tweet.